Hey, listen, you know what else is almost unheard of? Having a two-time Super Bowl winner join the show like he's about to do right now, the one and only
Legend.
Daniel.
How you
Daniel.
guys doing?
All-American offensive lineman, three-time conference champion at the University of Texas, and oh, by the way, two-time Super Bowl winner with the Denver Broncos. In fact, Dan, you just got back from your 25th anniversary of your 98 Super Bowl victory with the Broncos.
Yeah, just got back last night.
How was that?
It was fun. I was fortunate enough. I got to go last year when we did the anniversary of the Super Bowl 32 team, then back again this year for 33. So this will be it for me because I will not be around for 50. So I was really excited to be able to go.
Come on, he's still in good shape. Come on, man.
No. And I'm the youngest guy out there too. All those other guys I play with are old now, man. You should see them.
Oh yeah. Who was the veteran on the team? You won a Super Bowl as a rookie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there was some veteran on the team who's like, you don't know how bleepity bleeping lucky you got it. I've been around for. Who was that?
Neil Smith. I saw Neil this weekend. Yeah,
Neil Smith.
He went up to me, had a few choice words about me getting a ring as a rookie, and it was like his 14th year before he got one. I was like, hell, I don't know. Denver didn't win a ring till I got here, so I don't know. Yeah, Trust me, I very jokingly say that when I go back and I see these guys I played with. I'm like, wow, we were so good.
Yeah.
Well,
so you saw the whole crew: Shannon, Elway, Terrell. Who was all there?
Pretty much. Hearing guys kind of hit and miss. Like Sharp was not actually there this year; he was last. John was there, Terrell was there, and Ed was there this year. Wasn't last. So pretty much between the 2 years, I saw almost all of them. But unfortunately, not everyone can make it. Mark Schlereth is not there because he's doing a game. So, it's unfortunate some guys couldn't make it, but it was fun. My wife kind of looked at me. He's like, I get it. You guys really love each other. I go, yeah, it's just when you play with somebody and you have success like that, it's like no one else really understands what it's like.
I love it. Well, any funny stories from the weekend?
We're old, remember? It's just pretty tame and calm. I was one of my teammates, a guy named Matt Lepsis, actually lives here in town with me. So we kind of traveled and hung out with him, and he's a Buffalo, so he actually went up to the CU game. But we just kind of sat around and went to a few events, enjoyed each other's company, and went to the game, did the halftime, which is always when you walk on a field with 60,000 people cheering for you, I don't care where you are, who you are, it's exciting. So it was fun.
Well, Dan, we were just talking about this Texas Longhorn team. I'm sure you have some thoughts after the win over Alabama. They end up, pulling away in the fourth quarter against Wyoming. What do you make of this team?
Well, and I'll preface this: I was unable to watch the Wyoming game because of this weekend, and Longhorn Network is not on in Colorado. So I didn't get to see, but I'm kind of like everybody in that is you just wanted to see them win the game. And that's the thing you have to remember. And a lot of my football relates back to the days when I was in Denver, and when you're playing the NFL, you can go play bad and lose, and you can go play bad and win. At the end of the day is win and lose is all you care about. So, they didn't have their greatest game against Wyoming, but they found a way to win. That's all I care about. That's over. That's done with. Now we're talking about Baylor. What you don't want is you don't want a game like Wyoming to cost you your season, what you're working for. But if you go back to the Alabama game, I mean, I was one of those guys saying there's no way they're going to win that game. I think they're going to play them really well, but I didn't think they'd win. Now, of course, I did not know Alabama didn't have a quarterback, but evidently they do not, and that was a big part of it. But you look at that game, and you guys tell me, the one time Texas was behind, they answered the score to go right back on top. They needed to hold on the ball at the end of the game to put it away. It was like, a 7-minute drive, something ridiculous. They rushed the ball, and they did everything they needed to do to win the game. And I kind of left saying, they left points out on the field with settling for 3 instead of 7 a couple of times, and they just control from start to finish against. And let me tell you what, it's going to be a good Alabama team. Don't kid yourself. They are going to win games and be a tough game for everyone. So you look at what they did there. They really showed everyone what they want to do. And then bouncing back against Wyoming, you now know that this team understands what it takes, because that's been the problem. They have not learned to win football games until this year. And now I think they figured it out.
Dan, how hard is it for an offensive line to have a player like Bijan in the backfield like they did last year, and now they're having to adjust? And it kind of seems like you didn't watch the game, but in the fourth quarter, they finally established the running game. And it just seems like Sark doesn't have the full confidence in the trust the running game, but though he loves to throw, but like how does that go? Like, as an offensive lineman, just knowing that, man, Bijan's not there anymore. What do we have to do better? And they're just kind of slowly coming along that way.
Well, I think that, Zay, I think that's part of it, is you can't do anything better, right? You can only do your job. Mistakes start happening when you try to do more than your job. And that's when you're pressing. I don't think they're doing any of that. I think there is a learning curve to running the ball. And I think it's more on the back's end and understanding where those cuts are at and the vision and what they need to do and fitting the system. And again, a lot of times I go back to my days in Denver. If you think back to those days, we rushed for 2,000 yards with Terrell Davis. Next season, he has a career-ending injury. And then we went the revolving door of running backs. And it really didn't matter who was running the ball. Each one of them, rushed over 1,300 yards back there. And they were all good players, but they fit the system. And we ran the system. And whoever's back there was expected to run like Terrell did. Now, Terrell made plays that the other guys couldn't. That's why he was who in the Hall of Fame. But we expected those guys to do what the system dictated they do. And I think that's where, you have to be as a program is really, we have 2-3 backs back there. It doesn't matter. They all should run the same. Now, they all have their specialties and they all have the things they do that make them different. But the idea of hitting the hole the right way and finding the hole is the same for every back.
So, Dan, you played for a offensive genius head coach, play caller, John Makovic. I don't think he was nearly as beloved or even liked like Steve Sarkisian. But, you look at this Texas offense, Quinn Ewers at quarterback. What gives you confidence, and where do they need to take it to the next level?
Well, I think, Zay, you hit on it, running the ball. They definitely can improve in that area. Although, as I said in that Alabama game, when they needed to, they did. So give them credit. But you'd like to see them establish it early, run it more, and get better at that phase of the game. Honestly, the thing about Sark, we all heard his story. I think the story is profound. I think it's a big part of who he is, and I think it really resonates with people. I know it does with me. And when they hired him, I liked it. I really liked the hire. I just said it's going to take a little bit here. And we all got frustrated a couple of years where they were losing games they probably shouldn't have and those type of things. But in the back end, you could see it in that he was getting a lot of great recruits. They were getting more and more talent. And you knew that, hey, it's going to come together. And I think you're seeing that. That's kind of what I like about Sark most important. We can talk about play calling all day. And he's good at it. Saban said he was good at it, and Saban knows what he's talking about, right? That's the easy part, in my opinion. It's managing the team, the players. You got the NIL going on, you got a portal going on, recruiting 18-year-old kids. All that's really hard stuff, and you got to really be endearing, in my opinion, to these young athletes and care about them. And you can't fake that. And that's why I think Sark has done such a great job. When you really care about the players, that translates more than just X's and O's winning the ball games. But at the end of the day, all that will help you have a great program and a great team.
In this defense.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. Tavondre Sweat, big number 93. Yeah. Does he remind you at all of Sam Adams, your lifelong nemesis?
Yeah, Sam. Sam was probably a little quicker than Tavondre, but let me tell you what, I would not enjoy going against Tavondre. I always tell people it's like Aaron Donald, Tavondre Sweat, guys make me glad I don't play anymore. He's a very good football player, and his job is to plug the middle and stop the run, and he does that very well. What I like about it is in the pass situations, he helps collapse that pocket, and that's what's going to force the quarterback outside, and your Ethan Burks and the other guys are going to be able to get some easy sacks that way. So all this stuff plays together, and the way that defense is playing is really something really, really fun to watch. I mean, they are really good at that side of the ball.
Yeah. Speaking of, Dan, you talk about guys that you didn't want to face, but during your day, who was somebody that you were like, man, I'm really going to have to buckle my chin strap up tight this game because this dude's going to bring it?
In college or the NFL?
Both.
Both. Well, every week in the NFL. I'll tell you a story. I'm at the Bronco game this week, and I'm with a former player, and he's like, Dan, I just can't enjoy this. I'm like, why not? He goes, this place gives me so much damn anxiety because every time we came here, you're about to get your butt kicked. And it really is. I mean, in the NFL, everyone was so good. It's a challenge each and every week. College, there was always a few guys. Chip mentioned kind of my nemesis, a good friend, guy I've known for a long time, Sam Adams at A&M. Amazing player. He always gave me fits. I mean, I'm going to name guys that are just obvious. Zach with Texas Tech, just went in the Hall of Fame. So, yeah, that guy was damn good. He gave me fits. Zach Thomas, thank you. Yeah, he gave me fits. I mean, there was a bunch of Daryl Gardner when he was a Baylor. Man, I didn't enjoy that very much. I love Daryl's old teammate too in Denver. Great guy, but man, I hated playing against him. So, when you play in a place like the Big 12, you're going to play against good football players. That's what you getting into it for. And so every week, Oklahoma's always got guys. I mean, there's just guys everywhere. So every week's kind of a fight, and you got to be ready.
Dan, Texas is going to Baylor. This is going to be the last time that these two schools meet for the foreseeable future. You just mentioned Daryl Gardner. I'm sure Santana Dotson.
Oh, yeah, Santana. Yeah.
Any memories? Now, you were playing at Floyd Casey Stadium.
Yeah.
Any memories playing at Baylor that just stand out in your mind?
Honestly, the one memory I have is Grant Taft's last game, and we were playing Baylor, and Grant Taft was in charge of the refereeing for the Southwest Conference at that time, and his buddies gave him the game. That's about all I remember about Baylor, but that's kind of what you get into going into Waco. It's a different place, and this is what the coaches are telling the players right now. All right, Baylor lost to Texas State. Okay, then they take Utah to the wire at home. Utah beats Florida. Florida just put a whooping on Tennessee. So don't kid yourself. This is a good football team, and all they want to do right now, because a lot of the things they kind of started out for, meaning championships, they know are kind of long shots. They know it deep down, but they know they can kick the crap out of Texas, and that'll make their season. So you're going to get a great game out of Baylor. They are not a bad football team, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Each and every week's going to be this way, especially on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing they have going for them against Baylor is that their quarterback, Blake Shapen, is not going to be back this week, and this backup quarterback doesn't look like he's got the goods. But I said it too. I mean, Baylor's going to play. Last year, they led Texas in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Last year.
And you're right. That's 1 year removed. It's not like they lost everybody on that team. I mean,
right.
That's football, right? You're going to when you're a team and you're going to get to another team's best shot, and you're on a fairly level field like the Big 12. That best shot's going to be a tough one to overcome. You got to play up to your level, and that's another thing you talk about as a football team. It does not matter who lines up in front of us. We play to our standard, our level. That should be good enough to beat everybody in front of us. And not every team can say that. Texas can right now. So that's how you got to approach it. We have a standard that we play at. Whomever's in front of us should not matter.
Yeah, Dan, speak on that a little bit more, because this Texas team, it seemed like they had a little bit of a hangover going into this Wyoming game after they were playing Alabama. It was tied 10-10 going into the fourth quarter, and then they ran up 21 points, and it became 31-10 the final. But how difficult is it when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, riding that high of being the big-time team, and then the next week, you're playing against a team that the line's minus 28.5, and you level your competition down to theirs just because you're still on that Alabama high.
And that's exactly right. You play below your standard, and that happens because these are human beings. If you look at it, like the Rice game was sort of similar to the Wyoming game, kind of slow, get going a little bit, and then they got rolled and they looked all right, and then they go out and look like they did against Wyoming. Well, what do you think? I mean, you're getting ready to play Rice, and the next week you have Alabama, and you hear that we're not looking ahead. Oh, yes, you are. We all are. We're human beings. It's in the back of your mind. I just get through Rice and get to go to Tuscaloosa. I would have done the same thing, and I like to think that I was kind of focused on what was in front of me, but you can't help it. Then you just beat Tuscaloosa. You're 4 in the country. Everybody's telling you how great you are. It's a euphoric thing to go through, and then you kind of maybe don't think of – it's like you underestimate Wyoming. You just don't have your focus like you need to at times, but they get it done. That's my point. You got to get it done. Both those games, they got it done. And this is where you really want to get into it now that you're in your conference. Okay, these are the familiar foes. This is sort of the routine that you're in now, and you know what you got to do. We got to win a Big 12. We know what we need to do to win the Big 12. Let's do that. We beat Alabama, therefore we win the Big 12. We got a shot at a playoff. Let's just take it one step at a time. So I don't even talk about anything beyond a Big 12 championship. First and foremost, we only have 3 of the things, and one of them was a 96, So I want one of those. And if we do that, everything else kind of falls into place for you, I believe, because to win the Big 12, you can't lose more than 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, Dan, you were part of that incredibly memorable very first Big 12 championship in 96, Nebraska, 3-touchdown favorite. You, James Brown, Ricky Williams, Priest Holmes roll up to the Trans World Dome in St. Louis and deal on that Nebraska team. John Mackovic calling Steelers roll left on 4th and 1 from his own 27, up 3.
Yeah.
That story never gets old, Dan. I mean, did you expect Mackovic to go for it from your own 27 up 3?
I didn't expect him to throw the ball. In fact, I was one of the smart players on the huddle when he called the play. I was like, that's the dumbest call I've ever heard. Excuse me, shows you what I know about football, right? And after the play, I'm like, great call. I was a typical fan. Yeah, but I think that kind of that goes to what we're talking about. We were a better team than people kind of gave credit to, as Chip mentioned. I bet if you sat down and really, talked about what some of the members on that team did and what that team did at times, it was a great football team, loaded with a lot of talent. And we caught Hampton. I know. I know. If you start going through it, if you made a list, people don't realize how much talent was on that team. We believed in ourselves. I think that's why we did it. And I'm sure we caught Nebraska looking a little bit beyond, because all they had to do was win that one. They're about to go play for their 3rd national championship in a row. And it was kind of the perfect storm with the right, everything kind of aligned for us. And that's kind of my point. Any day, anybody can win. And you meet a team that has, and we weren't known as talent. All those guys you just mentioned weren't like All-Americans. Priest Holmes didn't play for us. But they showed in time how great they were. And you look back on it in hindsight 2020, wow, there's a ton of talent. And I bet Nebraska would approach it differently if they would have known who all was on that field. But hey, on that day, at that time, and it was a great win for the program, a great time, great fun. But, it kind of is my point to this team. Anybody can do it any day if you don't play up to your standard.
What was going through your mind when James said what he said to the media?
Oh, Chip knows the story better than I do. I'll tell you my side of it is, Mackovic had said going into that week, don't give the media anything. And James being James. And I know it's funny is that it really wasn't like you think. It wasn't like James walked in there, we're going to beat them by 21. He wasn't talking junk. James never talked. He did, but he did it, on the field, not to the media. But someone asked him point blank. I think it was Chip Brown that asked him this, if I recall correctly. Nebraska's picked to beat you by 21. What do you got to say? And James, just matter of factly, because he believed it, said, well, I think we're going to beat them by 21. That was it. And we all kind of said, well, hell yeah, we're going to beat them by 21. And you're like, yeah, why not? And that was exactly what we needed. And then we were there the whole game. And then that play at the end put it away.
So yeah. Chip blew it up.
Yeah, it was all Chip's fault.
Exactly the way I asked him. James walked in. I said, James, you're a 21-point underdog. What do you make of that? And he's like, I don't know. I think we're going to beat them by 3 touchdowns. And I was like, when did you start thinking that? And thank God I recorded it, because Mackovic accused me of making it up. and I had to bring him the tape. So I brought him the tape and played it. And then Makovic went into the locker room and apparently said, well, James, you said it, so you got to tell the team. And James told the team. And from what I heard, Dan Neal was the first one to stand up and go, fuck yeah, let's fuck these guys up.
That might be true. I don't remember.
Oh, man, legendary.
And the rest is
Zay,
history.
now you know why Chip Brown is so beloved by the University of Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Back in 96.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I knew he asked it. I just wanted to hear your take from it because it got you all here, man.
Well, in the headline in the Lincoln Journal-Star was like in 4-inch type, UTQB will win by 3 TDs. And by God, James Brown did what he does.
Hey, that's the one thing about James. Like I said, he would talk a little bit on the field, but he backed it up, man. You love playing with James. Love that guy.
Yeah, Dan, do you think he's like undervalued in Texas fans' eyes? Like Chip talks about all the time, and I'm right there with him. I know I was just a youngster back in that day, but yeah, do you think he doesn't get enough credit like some of the other guys that put on the burnt orange?
I do. Now, his senior year wasn't up to the standard he wanted it to be. I think that hurt him a little bit. But as I mentioned, you look back at that 96 team, I think part of it was an era when the coach was not beloved. And, afterwards it all fell apart and Mac Brown had to come in and rebuild the thing. And so we had this like it was so hot, so fast and gone that people sort of forget about it. But I mean, I'm going to butcher this. I was reading the other day. I mean, I think today it's like, it's one of the top 5 teams with Hall of Honor members. I think it was the second or third most NFL draft picks on a team. You had a Heisman Trophy winner on the team. You had an future NFL MVP that backed up the Heisman Trophy winner on the team. I go down the list. It was a really good football team. And yes, I feel more for my teammates because I was always pretty fortunate that, I got some notoriety, I guess, a little bit as I was finishing up, and I'm very blessed for that. But I had some teammates that I never felt got the credit they deserved, and I feel bad for them because in Texas history and what they accomplished, it's up there.
Yeah, I think James Brown is like the most underrated Texas quarterback, certainly in my time covering the team. I mean, Shea Morenz was the all-everything recruit, and James Brown was not what John Makovic had recruited, and James just won. All he did was win. And
I'm sorry, Coach. So when James was getting recruited, we had Shea Morenz, and Shea's a friend, and I think Shea's a great player. And what all happened to Shea wasn't all his fault, right? I think he would have been a great quarterback, but these things happen. I mean, look at Jalen Hurts at Alabama, right? James' attitude coming in was like, it's all right. You got to compete to play. I'll compete against whoever they put in front of me, and I will do my job. He wasn't scared of anybody, anything. He didn't back down. He wasn't running. He was going to stand and fight, and that was James. That's why he loved playing with the guy. His philosophy, his attitude was just move the change. Remember, James Brown, here's what people, again, you talk about James Brown. Do you know who James Brown's first start was against?
Oklahoma.
That's right. First
94.
time he started, goes out against Oklahoma, beats Oklahoma.
Man.
Not many quarterbacks have done that, and that's impressive. First college start.
Yeah, the stage is not too big. And you know what? Malik Murphy, I know people are going to be like, oh, shut up, Chip. You don't know anything about Malik. But Malik Murphy reminds me of James Brown because Malik dragged his high school team to a state championship in California. It was not a talented team. Everybody offered him to transfer from Texas, Florida, most notably. And he's like, nope, I'm going to stay here and compete. And he's not afraid. And, we'll see if he ever gets on the field, but just a minor note there. But Dan, do you get the sense, in the way that this Texas team has been progressing, that they've got what it takes to
Yeah.
win the last Big 12 championship?
I do, and that's sort of my point. You know, you look at the season so far, and you can see where they'd overlook Rice and Wyoming, but they win. They go beat Alabama, Tuscaloosa. And, I mean, but two teams have done that. How long? You know, that doesn't happen. That's amazing. And you can argue all you want how Alabama's not that good of a team. Yeah, they are. Trust me. Wait till the season's over. And so you look at this team the last couple of years. I've always said they're talented. They just got to figure out how to win. Here's the thing: winning's a habit, losing's a habit. Why do you think Alabama usually always wins? Because they believe it. They don't question it. They expect it, and they know what to go do, and they put teams away. Texas was kind of hoping to win, and I've been on both teams. Once you get to where you expect to win, you do win. And I think that's what they've turned these last 3 weeks. So now I think they're going into this Baylor game expecting to beat Baylor. They don't doubt it. They don't question it. Not to say that they don't lose one along the way, because, gosh, you're human beings. These things happen. But they certainly, if you look at that schedule, I think every game's a dogfight, but I think they are the team to beat every week or every game for the rest of the season.
Yeah, now I'm looking at the schedule, and Zay said, watch out for Kansas. I think he's right. I think
he is
Kansas,
right.
With their speed and Jalen Daniels, September 30th, that game looks like the game that Texas needs to be on point, and OU, because Dylan Gabriel can win a shootout too. So
this is and here's my point. You're right, back to back. Here's my point, right? Sometimes you get lost in the whole thing. We don't ever talk about OU because are you guys worried about a letdown for OU?
Right.
Sure. OU's OU. I just say it's OU. It's the OU Texas game. Anything can happen. Doesn't matter. Just throw that one out there. But you worry about other games, and that's where you have to play to your standards so you don't have those letdowns, because you're absolutely right. We can make argument. Trust me. I saw what Kansas did to Illinois. I absolutely undressed them. I was like, damn, this is a good team. You know, they're not bad. Baylor's going to give you, I mean, what I say, go down the list. You're getting their best shot. So you got to remember, each and every week's going to be a fight, and you got to play to a standard and a level. But if we do that, we can win. Not every team can say that. They may tell themselves that, but it's not true. I believe Texas, if they play to their standard, their level, each week they win the rest. But now that's in a big if, guys, and I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm just saying if they do it.
Yeah.
Dan, are you going to miss not playing Tech and Baylor? Obviously not as often with the Horns going to the SEC.
I am. Look, I get it. We could all. It's very simple. It's money, right? You know, why we're having these conferences shift and change. I don't like it in the sense that I would rather see Kansas play Missouri. I would rather see Texas play Tech and Baylor. You know, these traditional great rivalries that everyone loves. I think are great games, and I hate to see them go away, but it is what it is. I'm still glad that we got OU and we got now A&M back on the schedule, and Arkansas. So you lose some, you gain some. It's just kind of where we're at. I'm excited about the SEC. I think every fan is. I mean, it's going to be great football to watch. So, but I am sad to see these other ones go away, because it was. It's been 100 years in some of these things, right, or close to it. It's been a long time.
Well, Dan, I know how you watch football games. You are right on the line of scrimmage. So tell me what, people give Jake Majors a hard time, and the interior of the line, everyone knows about Kelvin Banks and Christian Jones, but give me your thoughts on the offensive line.
Well, I mean, you know me, I don't ever like to disparage, college athletes. I certainly do not intend to, but I like all five of them. Banks is Banks. I mean, the guy's really good. And, he'll be a great player for a long time. I tell people, I mean, you want to know what kind of offensive line Texas got. Look at Jones, number 70. Here's a guy that's got skills, but in my opinion, he's kind of always underperformed. Hasn't really lived up to what people expected him. And then watch him play this year. All of a sudden, he got good. What's the difference? Well, he's got a different coach. And you see what you're getting from Kurt Flood. And 52, I think, is going to be a good player. I really like him. Jake Majors is a solid guy in the middle. I think all five of them up front are good. In years past, and Chip's heard me, I don't disparage college athletes. I didn't say this about the offensive line, and I am now. I think all five can play. I think They know what they're doing, their scheme. I understand what they're trying to do up front. It's kind of a gap scheme, and okay, that'll work. Let's do it. Let's go run the ball. They just got to get better at running, and then they will, because again, I mean, I tell people that the biggest position group is your offensive line. There's 5 of them. I know DBs are what they are, but there's 5 of them. They always have to work together on every play. It takes a little while to put all that together, and the back all of a sudden is involved in it. Maybe a fullback, a tight end. That's a lot of people getting on the same page. So that's the last thing to come around for a football team. But once you get that rolling, you can get it going, and they got the 5 guys up front to do it. What
do you think of Baxter, the freshman running back, and Jonathan Brooks?
I haven't watched enough, Chip, to really comment. What I have seen is I like all the backs that they have. I think they all have skill and they run hard, which is kind of what I look for. I don't see any laziness really on anybody on that team. That's what I'm excited about. But exactly, I haven't watched close enough to know if they're making the right reads and cuts and doing all the little things.
Well, everyone's looking at Quinn Ewers.
I tell my Quinn Ewers guy, everyone's like, he can't throw the deep ball, man. This is before Alabama. Can't throw the deep ball. It's like, well, I don't know. I'm not good at this stuff. But last time I saw him play an entire football game was the Texas high school championship game, and he was light years above everybody else in that game, and the other guys in that field were pretty good. He threw the deep ball then. I don't think he forgot how to. Now, he hadn't done it, but I know he can do it. And give him a chance, and guess what? He can throw the deep ball. Go Magic. No, he's a very talented football player. Agreed. We hadn't seen it all out of him last year as much, but so far this year you're seeing it. And I think a lot of it has to do with he's focused on what he wants to get done.
Yeah. Dan, last one for me. Those Broncos 0-2. Sean Payton first year there. Russell Wilson doesn't look too good. I know that Colorado media, they're praising Dion, but probably bashing Payton and Russell. What do you think about how they look right now?
Yeah, you got so the Bronco football team, the product you see on the field is not very good right now. No. And you got to kind of look at it from the top down, and they have great owners. Can't emphasize that enough to you guys. Their ownership group is really, really good. They're passionate. They want to win. It's just going to take a little bit to get all the right people, because they bought a team that the old group that was running it was transitioning out. They hired a bunch of people to take over. They took over those new hires. They're not their people yet completely. So they're trying to put the whole thing together. And it's going to take a minute. And because of some of those decisions, whether they like it or not, they're stuck with Russell Wilson. They went out and got a coach this year that, we all thought was a good hire, and I still think so. It's just going to take a little bit to get going, and it's not like this is a world, championship team this year. Hopefully, they can get things straightened out and be good in the next couple of years. There are some pieces that are there. They just don't have anybody. They don't have the receivers they need. Although I did see little Jordan play. They're missing some pieces, but in time, hopefully they put it all together.
Dan, last thing from me, your old teammate, Brian Vosick.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is probably one of the best defensive line coaches in high school football. He coached Ethan Burke with his own son, Colton Vosick, at Westlake. Of course, your son, David, played at Westlake. You have kept an eye on Westlake, and just talk about first Brian Vosick, your teammate, what he was like when you played with him, and now seeing guys like Ethan Burke and Colton Vosick.
So Brian Vosick, the thing that always jumped out about me, if you think about like a temper, like a seriousness, like a ravaging guy being a 10, I never saw Brian above a 2. A most laid back, easygoing guy. Not that he wasn't a good football player, just Brian never got too worked up about anything. And I love Brian. He actually, as you know, he coached my son who played at Westlake, and I was very, very happy that he was able to coach my son. Did a great job. He does know what he's doing. Ethan Burke's a good player. His son's supposed to be a good player. I'm a big Vosick fan, but I do like Ethan Burke a lot. This is a guy who's just learning how to play football, guys. He just started this game, and you can see where there's some serious talent there. And it's almost like that first game, Rice, he didn't play. Then they put him out. They saw something. And they're like, well, let's try him against Bam. And then they didn't take him off the field. The guy was unbelievable. So Again, I mean, that's like he's like 4 or 5 deep. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of talent on this team.
Yeah. Well, Dan, always great to talk to you, my friend. Congratulations again on the Super Bowl anniversary weekend, and how cool that you got to go back-to-back years because, of course, your Broncos won it all in 97 and 98. That's awesome, man. Thanks for taking some time with us today.
Hey, anytime, guys, and I appreciate it. I was blessed to be on a great